Welcome everyone to Science Society, and of course, a special welcome to you, Dr. Yu Fukasawa. And Dr. Fukasawa, he's at Tohoku University at the School of Agricultural Science in the faculty. He's in the Faculty of Agriculture, and he did his PhD at Kyoto University in agriculture, and he does really interesting work in studying the effects of forest dieback and on decomposition of that wood. And then also he does the research part we will focus on today is about intelligence of fungi, and which is really, really exciting and interesting, and kind of like we are diving into an alien world that is right here on Earth. So, before we start, Victoria, would you like to go ahead and do the pre-interview? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katarina. I'm here and I'm ready, and we're so happy, Dr. Fukasawa, to welcome you to Science Society.
Thank
In
you.
order to get a bit more information about you, just learn a bit about who you are so we can know before we dive into your research. If you can think back during your life to a
Yeah.
time when you felt that spark of affinity towards science.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, anywhere. Thank you.
Um, I'm living in northeastern part of Japan, which is called Tohoku. This is because the name of my university is Tohoku University. Uh, Tohoku area is not the center of Japan, so it's famous for its beautiful nature and traditional culture, and also hot springs. So if we go into the mountains in Tohoku area, you can find many hot springs, and sometimes you may find hot streams. That means some natural streams. Its water temperature is very high and sometimes very good for taking foot bath. And if you like, you can dig the hole in the stream, and so you can enjoy full body bath if you like. That is amazing, taking bath in the completely nature. Um, in the experiment which we are mentioning today about mushroom electrical activity of mushrooms, we went into mountains and found some mass of mushrooms. The name of mushroom is Laccaria bicara, which is a group of ectomycorrhizal mushrooms, which is making close symbiosis with tree roots. And after finding the mass of mushrooms, to be honest, we found 6 mushrooms fruiting on the ground. We put electrodes on each of the mushrooms and measured electrical activities. At the beginning of the measuring, we didn't detect any electrical activities, probably because of the drought for about two weeks beforehand. But after starting, we've got a rain due to typhoon approaching, and that rain activated electrical activity of mushrooms. That is very nice. And after we analyzed the pattern of electrical activities of the 6 mushrooms, we statistically detected that there may some electrical signal transfer across mushrooms and potential directionality. Um, this is part of my research about fungal ecology, but I'm also working on um, intelligence of mushrooms, intelligence of hyphal growth of the mushrooms, as Katarina kindly introduced me about me. That experiment is also very interesting, and by observing behavior of mycelial growth, we can detect uh, that mycelial body have memory and decision-making abilities because of the environmental change. This is a very brief overview of my research about fungal intelligence, about electrical activities in forest.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much for for this brief overview um, of your really interesting research. So, if you're okay, we'll just continue with questions about this, and then
Yes.
yeah, perfect. So, you describe also in the figure how you basically connected these electrodes to the different fungi,
Yep.
which is that is really interesting. Would you say that it's like are these currents similar to like action potentials you would see in neurons? And do you
Hmm.
know how these electric signals get propagated and how
Yeah.
far?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could describe more about these signals, thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm very happy that you feel that this pattern is like action potential in neuron. You are, I know that you are a specialist of neuroscience. So, did you really feel that this pattern is like action potential in neuron?
I'm not. I don't know 100%. The thing is, I read also a paper from a previous, like a paper from another, from
Oh, under
1995. I don't know if you
okay.
know this paper, Action Potential like activity found in fungi, mycelia,
Hmm.
insensitive to stimulation. And when I looked there, it looked so similar. And I
Hmm.
didn't realize, I never, before reading your work, I didn't, then I started reading more and, comparing this, it looks very similar, no? Would
Mm.
you say?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, to be honest, the origin of electrical activity in my case is unknown because we just put electrodes onto the top and the bottom of the mushroom, and this size scale is very large compared to cell. So we are not measuring membrane potential, just electrical activity of the mushroom. So I'm I'm not sure about the origin of the electrical activity of the mushrooms in this case. Probably mushrooms membrane potential is one reason, but we can also predict some other mechanism of the electrical activities.
Okay, so yeah, so you would say it's a very different mechanism that what was published before by Olsen and Hansen. the mechanism. Would you say it's more similar to, I don't know if you read this paper that came out relatively recently about these sounds that plants make when they are when it's too dry, when they don't have enough water, these popping sounds.
Hmm. Hmm.
Would you say that it's closer to a mechanism that was reported there, or kind of a mix of the two?
Uh-huh. Uh, I I'm not sure about the mechanism of plants making electrical activities and sounds, but uh, I know the research by Andrew Adamatsky in the UK, who is also measuring mushrooms' electrical activities by using electrodes, and some interesting research by him is conducting lang- linguistic analysis of the uh, electrical activities of the mushrooms, and he reported that mushrooms' electrical potential is like language, and after linguistic analysis, he described the uh, characteristics of that language. Uh, he reported that the length of words between English and Russian language. And that's funny and interesting, but it it is just analysis of pattern, uh, treat, treat, treating mushrooms electrical activity as language, as kind of language. But we still don't know if the that pattern has information or some functions on fungal activities or ecology. So our next goal is to detect information or some some function in electrical activities in mushrooms. Yeah. For example, if mushroom transfer electrical activities as signal and include information, probably uh, after after grazed by some insects, then probably connected mushrooms can also prepare for grazing beforehand. They really grazed by the insects. That kind of information and function could be expected in this kind of signal transfer.
Yeah, and why do you think that the signal is the strongest after rainfall? Is it just because there's more availability of whatever is necessary to perform these patterns of electricity, or do you think yeah, or do you think it is related to the function of when it's more humid that they have to, perform some other function?
Mm. Yeah, I think that the rain and water activated cell activity of the mushrooms because before our measurement, we didn't have rain for almost 2 weeks, so the soils are dry out and mushrooms are also dry out. So in that period, mushroom cell is in the mode of sleep. So after absorbing water, the cell was activated again, and that makes electrical potential activated after the rain. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one thing that came to my mind, if you're planning on doing, or maybe you did already an experiment, because the
Mhm.
previous Nature paper you suggest that the fungi could remember
Mm.
its growth direction and
Oh,
make
yes.
decisions where to allocate resources.
Hmm.
Do you did you measure those electric pulses while like before
Mm.
while relocating resources and after? Like, do they change? Are there maybe patterns to those different states on decision making and the outcome?
Yeah, that's so interesting point, and what that is that experiment is what we are now conducting. Our preliminary data show that there's some uh, activation of electrical activities on the location of new bait after after finding that bait. But I'm not sure about the direction. So yeah, I'm expecting the memory caused by electrical activities on across my cellular body. So I'm trying to detect that now. And do you know the paper by Hanson in, I think it's on the 1980s, and he detected activated frequency increase of frequency of action potentials after baiting on the mycelium. That experiment is also very interesting. If we put bait on the mycelium, the electrical action potential of the frequency of electrical action potential increase greatly. But after after he removed the bait, the frequency decreased again. So the frequency of action potential can uh, affected by the bait.
Yeah, yeah, I read briefly the papers and I thought it was so interesting and I was so upset that I didn't know about this work before because I for sure would have chosen to do
Mm.
electrophysiology on fungi back
Yeah,
in time
yeah, that's so interesting.
because he uses the exact same amplifiers and everything I started using when
Mm.
I so and it really looks so similar, the action potentials. It's very impressive the work that they did back then.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, that's what I thought based on their work. Probably you would expect that. So do you think you can predict that for all kinds of fungi, or do you think there are fungi types that I
mm.
don't know, could perform this and then others maybe not,
Yeah,
based on.
yeah. That's also interesting question. Our recent paper, I published two papers this year. One is the this Lacaria bicara mushroom, but another one is about Aspergillus nigrans, that which is kind of moles. We also measured uh, calcium ion concentration of the mycelium for that mold. And in that paper, we concluded that that fungus never transfer information or electrical activities across mycellular body because response of calcium ion concentration due to the injury on the micellar body uh, remain at the part of the injured, but not transferred to other part of the mycelium. So, so yes, we expect that there's some difference in signal transfer across micellar body among fungal species. Yes.
That's really interesting. And because I think the more we learn about these different species, also, for example, octopus, the
Octopus.
more we learn about different forms of intelligence and
Mm.
information processing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think that this is kind of, fungi is kind of one of the first intelligence like decision making
Mm.
network processing that existed in evolution? Maybe, I don't know, but it seems to be. And then it seems to be that also always calcium is involved. So
Mm. Yes.
that is also really interesting to me. Why calcium always in these different
Mm.
systems? So do you observe, like, what do you think about, the implications of our knowledge in evolution and intelligence, and why is calcium so good at this? I
That's a
don't know.
big
I know
question.
it's a very general question, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big question. I have no answer currently for that question. But yeah, uh, intelligence is I think that intelligence is generally we organisms have their own intelligence in some uh, in some figure or some state. Of course, we human and brained animals have very uh, complicated, no, not complicated, high level of intelligence. But even without brains and central nervous system, fungi and slimers and some other single cell organisms can also uh, act smart against environmental change. So I obviously there's single cell intelligence ubiquitous for among organisms. Hmm.
I'm curious. I'm always interested in origins and early forms of intelligence,
Yeah.
and of course how it relates to calcium. The number of
Hmm.
conjectures there, but what's so interesting about just looking at Figure 2, the
Figure
they're
two.
they're responding to hydration. The rain's coming, but
Hmm.
they all respond so differently. Some wake up early. They tend to be active during the heavy
Mm.
rains, but even when the rain goes away, some maintain certain high levels of activity, and
Yeah,
others
yeah.
die off. It's so curious to try to imagine what they're saying to each other. Um, I mean, could you comment on that? That such an at least within this sample, such individual characteristic responses to
Mm.
essentially the same stimulus.
Yeah. At the beginning of the rain, there's so fluctuation and difference about action potential and electrical potential across mushrooms. I think this is because a hit and miss of raindrops across individual mushrooms. But after the rain, yeah, as you said, there's some difference between mushrooms as actual electrical potentials. Some some mushroom kept high level of electrical activity, but others go down near to zero. I'm not sure about the difference. Yeah, I'm not sure about the reason of the difference between mushrooms.
I mean, do you see that in other experiments where there there's apparently this individual character to mushrooms that,
Mm.
or the
Yeah.
population average doesn't, really have a meaningful center, that there's this
Hmm.
diversity in
Yeah,
the
that's
response.
interesting. That's interesting. And our our next experiment is covering more wide area of forest uh, uh, and detecting many more mushrooms, probably including some of the mushrooms are in same colony. I mean, same individual, but others belongs to other colony, other individual. So we expect that electrical signal transfer occur within the colony, but not to the other colonies or something like that. And and of course within species, but not across species, different species. So we are now analyzing the data. So hopefully detecting some interesting patterns across mushroom species and individuals.
Hi, Michael. How are you? Did you want to ask a question, join the conversation?
Oh, yeah, I did because so I work in agritech, but mushrooms, I'm not an expert on. I know there have been studies that show that they can transmit electrical signals, and so I was just kind of listening to wait for the right time to ask a question that I wanted to come up with, but I I'll just be quiet until it comes up. Sorry, but it's actually exciting. I love it.
Yeah,
There's so much
yeah. Thank you for that.
so many great things.
Because that's I wanted to ask that later on, but now that you're here, we can ask it now. Do you think that there are applications for agriculture tech, like because fungi are very important. Are very important for basically the soil health for agriculture. So would there be maybe a sensor we could develop to measure, we could measure these electrical signals, and if they die out, people have to start giving the soil water, and then we could basically use this information to not, to be more conscious about water use. We would only water the soil once the mushrooms start having way too weak signals. Do you think that could be something uh, people could develop to basically save water?
Hmm.
I don't know what the market for mushrooms is personally. Um, but yeah, so mushrooms need, from what I know, is they need a lot of moisture. Um, there's different kinds of mushrooms that grow in different, areas. So, but can you measure the soil? Yeah, we do that now in agriculture. So we can analyze soil. We can use spectral imaging with drones to look at soil and determine if it's dry, if there's pests in there, what kind of pests, what are your crops doing. So that's how kind of agritech works. Is with organic, it's traditional farming where we use organic products, not chemicals, right, to do the same things the pesticides will do. They don't poison the soil. They don't poison the crops. You don't eat them at the end of the day because some chemicals actually go into the crops and stay in there. Like they get sucked into the crops and then you eat them. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things coming along right now, and yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible. I'm not an expert. I know very little about mushrooms. I know about them honestly. I got into them because my son started growing them to deal with his ADHD and his anxiety, and I kind of let him do his own thing. So he actually taught me a lot, which is ironic. And but yeah, I'm not an expert on that. I know a little bit about it, but yeah, I do work in agritech, so this is actually really interesting. But I do know that There have been studies on that. And then in plants as well, plants do communicate. So,
Yeah, that's why we have our expert here. You, Dr. Fukasawa, he is the professor that published this work. So, yeah, I don't know if you realized. So, do you have something? What do you think about that? To use that knowledge, basically, of this fungi communication as a as an insight in how healthy the soil is that we use in agriculture?
I guess that's
No,
kind of a broad
I'm
question.
asking Dr.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry. I'm
sorry.
sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, to me,
Yeah, yeah. Do you think we can use that knowledge about fungi and maybe develop a sensor that
oh
kind of
yeah, that's
indicates the health of the soil if the fungi are healthy and communicating?
yeah, that's interesting idea. And also, uh, some group of fungi make very long and strong cord, which is a parallel thick mycelium that is very efficient for transporting not only electrical signals but also water and nutrients. And some mushroom species make massive, very large colonies, which is over hundreds of hectares. So I want to know if the electrical signal and information can transfer across that big mycelium, or they can transfer water and nutrients across forest. So if they transfer water across long way along their mycelial body, they can improve water condition in the in dried land from uh, moving water from uh, wetland. So only detecting, only using mycelium as some kinds of sensor, but we we may be able to use mycelium to improve soil condition. That yeah, I think that's a very interesting idea. But we still don't know how much water and nutrients moving across mycelium and how far. So we yeah, we have to detect those kind of things in the future.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we had the speaker here a few weeks ago and then another one last year, that looked at the basically at the microbiome of different soils and before and after drought, and the other, I guess, speaker was talking about after these very severe fires, forest
Mhm.
fires, and they show that this microbiome system changes and that it can happen that carbon capture, like the organisms that perform carbon capture, decrease after, for example, droughts, and then one it's
Mm.
bad for our calculations how much carbon capture actually soil can perform for us, for climate, but also for resilience of the soil and of a forest and to bounce back. So I think fungi would play a very important role in that. So it's really, I think that's why your research is also very interesting, um, in basically studying their function, how they transport nutrients and information, and how their behavior changes based on
Mm.
that, so we can learn how to help soil to bounce back, especially in the future with more climate change.
Yeah.
insults.
Mm. Yeah. Uh, one of my research topic is on wood decomposition by fungi, which is also very interesting. And I also worked for the effect of climate and environmental condition on wood decomposition, fungal community change in dead wood, and its effect on decomposition and carbon accumulation after the decomposition. And along that study, what I found was that in more south, ah, uh, there's two types of wood decomposition. One is white rot and one is brown rot. Um, this is because of the difference of fungal community in dead wood and function of their wood decay. White rot means lignin component of wood was decayed, but brown rot means lignin remains. So probably carbon amount after decomposition process is larger in brown rot process compared to white rot process. After after detecting fungal community across latitudinal gradient in Japan and some European countries, we found that there's clear gradient from white rot to brown rot from north to south in Japan and also in Europe. So, and also um, other research reported that increase of brown rot fungi after forest burning, forest fire. Also, we also found that forest disturbance event uh, such as wind disturbance and pest also increase dominance of brown rot fungi in the forest. So my hypothesis is that after the forest disturbance, fire and pest and wind may increase the dominance of brown rot type of decay, and which increase um, carbon storage in forest after the disturbance.
Hey, Katerina, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Are you talking about biochar?
Not only biochar, but brown rot type of decay is caused by mushroom, because some species of fungi decay cellulose and hemicellulose, but not lignin. And during that process of decay, lignin remains, and deadwood becomes more brown and brown after the decay process. That is not different from biochar.
No, I think she was like, I think originally she was asked, I think what she was asking was about biochar.
Mm-hmm.
No, not to you, just like in general. I think the person she
But
had
no,
speaking was you.
I don't know what I wasn't talking about biochar. I was just talking in general about different climate insults, um, due to, that become more severe due to climate change, and how that changes the microbiome system in the soil, and yeah, how that is true for the fungi too. That's interesting that this species become more prevalent, after different insults. Do you know the function that they take? Is it kind of a positive function that they kind of help the soil to and the forest to recover, or is it more like a negative feedback function that those type of fungi perform.
Yeah, based on my hypothesis, I I think that nature and forest ecosystem recover to to store more carbon after the disturbance. Yeah, but that's my hypothesis.
Yeah, thank you. That's interesting. That's interesting to hear. And coming. Oh, Kirko joined. Kirko, did you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like I may have missed the whole talk, but I just wanted to know: is this communication amongst fungi kind of like allelopathy in plants?
Uh, this is difference. This is my research is different from plant communication across plant individuals uh, because my research is on mushrooms in same individual. So it's a signal transfer within body. It's like within inside the body because I measured electrical potential of 6 mushroom, but all of the 6 mushrooms is within the same individual connected by the mycelium underground. So
So is it more like a nervous system?
yeah,
That's pretty cool, man.
mm, yeah, that's interesting. But I also expect that some communication across different individual of mushrooms due to some chemicals like plants. We we didn't we didn't get any evidence about that yet. So I have a question on Katarina as a neuroscientist. In brain, there's the communication across many neurons, and which make consciousness in the brain. But in ecosystem, there's many interaction between organisms. Do you think that kind of organism interaction across organisms make some kind of consciousness in, for example, forests?
That's a very interesting question, and people have different theories of what is needed to create basically consciousness. And I mean, one of the interesting hypotheses is that you need relatively high connectivity
Hmm.
to create basically conscious thoughts. That is one speculation. There are other people that say that you have different levels kind of consciousness. You have very simple forms, and then more and more complicated ones.
Mm.
um I think Mike Levin would be one of the people proposing that. So
Mm.
um I'm not sure how connected. So this how tightly connected these systems are. It's an interesting question though, um, about consciousness, and I always flip back and forth what I think. I think more that there are different forms of consciousness, that there are more simple forms or more complicated forms, depending on how many levels of input output information have to be processed, and how many levels of connectivity there are, and how much is kind of automated response, or how much is like a decision making type of response. And I thought it was really interesting, this Nature paper that you published, where it's more decision making of where to relocate resources. And that, I think, could be a very, a kind of simple form of consciousness, because you kind
Mm.
of have to decide where to go, not just yes or no, like not just zero and one or yes or
Hmm.
no.
Yes,
It's
yes.
it has to be a directed decision, right, in the right spot. So I I'm a defender more of that there are different forms of consciousness. There's a spectrum basically.
Hmm.
Um, you know what I thought would be really interesting, because I read that this communication through mushrooms in the forest, that trees and so on kind of also use these networks. Do you Are you thinking of basically isolating the mushrooms in the lab in various forms, let's say completely isolated, and then maybe grow it with one tree and then various trees? Could you create basically a field, in an outdoor lab, and then generate basically a very simple network and then a more complicated one, to
Hmm.
see if that information transfer changes and the complexity of the signals? If they're very simple, if it's just a mushroom, and then more and more complex if you add different types of plants.
Hmm. Yeah, that's also a very interesting question. In some researcher already made that kind of experiment in laboratory, connecting to connecting two individuals of plants by mycelium, because that species of fungi is making symbiotic connection with plant roots. And what they found is that there's some uh, signal transfer of water and nutrient signal chemicals across plant individuals along mycelium. So we already know that fungi can connect trees in laboratory level, but it is very difficult to get evidence of this type of connection in the field, because there's many more pathway, not only mycelium, but just but that is also possible that some exudates from tree roots can absorb by other trees without mycelium connection. So it's very difficult to detect signal and nutrient transfer in the field. But th- yeah, but it's possible. So I think mycelium can connect trees and plants in nature also.
I just had a really random question. If I didn't want to cut you off though. So I was like super curious, right? Um, like as your research goes on, it'd be cool if you like looked at um the see if there's like a difference in the potential for electrical like I guess like stimuli amongst like different like species of fungi or mushrooms or I just want to say fungi because I'm saying that just because I kind of would think it there's certain fungi that can invade a host and somehow make its host do things, and I'm super curious on if that could be mediated also by like electrical stimuli, because like I've never even knew that mushrooms could do that. So I'm kind of curious on like whether or not the symbiotic or parasitic nature of some fungi is dependent upon these the ability for electrical stimulus.
Hmm. Oh, are you talking about the mechanism or electrical mechanism of plant fungal interaction on the root?
Plant fungal interaction, fungal um, eukaryotic cell interaction, like just the
I think you mean the parasites, right? They are
Yeah,
a parasite
parasites and
fungi that.
fungus in symbiotic relationships because it has to have some type of way to communicate, right? Is it just purely by
Mhm.
chemical, which I can understand that with like plants, but in parasitic situations like the cordyceps with the ants, it can make the whole ant move after it's like grown through the body. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like I feel like it's hard to stimulate a muscle to move without an electrical signal.
Mm. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I'm not sure about the mechanism of zombie and parasitic fungus affecting plant and animals, but electrical mechanism could be. Yeah, that's interesting.
But I think zombie. I think what you're talking about, the zombie ant, whatever. I think those are parasites, not fungi.
No, it's a fungus. It's a
Mm,
parasitic
yeah,
fungus.
it's fungus. Yeah, Ophiocordyceps.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to like research this. Good question.
It's what the Last of Us, that TV show, video game, cordyceps.
Mm.
There are a lot of different, there are hundreds or thousands of species of cordyceps. They specialize. It's not just ants, but I'm not sure if there's another species where there's so much control that the ant is brought to a very high point, overlooking a potential infection cohort. Like, just they move to the highest point and then they ensure that there are other places to propagate after that. Moth species, I don't think they do that.
Welcome, Denny's, and I want to welcome Dash to the stage and Eric. Glad to see you. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I do. How's it going? Thanks for inviting me up to the stage. I was just reading the paper um, that Dr. Yu published up there on the top. I'm not really familiar with uh, the nomenclature when it comes to fungi, um, but I do have some level of knowledge when it comes to the brain and how neurons and neural pathways work. And if I'm correct, I believe Dr. You discovered um, evidence of intelligence in mushrooms, um, because you're seeing that they can communicate by way of leveraging, the force of electron, the elect. They're using electricity to basically communicate with one another. So I guess my question would be, uh, is there a certain like how the brain has neurons like as their medium to communicate and transmit information through the nervous system. Um, I, I did see what you posted, Katerina, about the calcium. So my question is, are these mushrooms utilizing calcium to transmit electrical signals, Dr. Yu?
Yes, yes. Not in my case. We didn't measure calcium in this mushroom, but our other paper published this year measured calcium, visualizing bioimaging of calcium biomarker in different fungus, and they actually using calcium to transfer signals. But the distance of the signal transfer is very short. So in the case of that fungus, we concluded that they do not transfer signals across whole body of the mycelium. Not signal transfer is just uh, along very short range. But my answer is yes. They are using calcium. And do you know if there's a symposium about cognition of the simple organism. That symposium will be held in UCLA at the last of June, this June. Anybody attending that symposium?
No, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, many researchers working on slime molds and fungi and some other simple organisms will be attend will be attending and give a talk. That's so cool.
Any idea if there are remote viewing options or
Yes, they have
that's
online.
awesome.
Yes.
What is that conference again?
I'm not sure about the name, but it's on the cognition of simple organism like slime molds and fungi and some single cell organisms.
That's really interesting because uh, a lot of things we know about cell function comes from very simple organisms like yeast and so on. And
Yes.
and even the breakthrough in memory, like how memory works in the cells, was not done in mammals or anything. Was done in more simpler not as simple, but aplysia and squids. Like we know a lot about how neurons work and information transfer works from the giant axon in the squid. So we learned a lot from going into research of simple organisms. So I expect that yeah, I hope and expect that the more we learn about these systems, we also learn more about ourselves and in general about how life works, um, which I think is also a really interesting subject. Do you think that a fungi-like organism is more likely to be found on other planets? What do you think about that?
Question for me?
Yes.
I don't know, but yeah, but it's possible, I think.
Because we talked about consciousness and, different types of consciousness. I mean, how complex do you think computation can get with mushrooms? I know that I don't know too much about that work, but I read a news article that the researcher wants to use simple organisms to basically create computation, like an
Mhm.
organic chip type of computation. Do you know something about that and how complex the computation can get with, let's say,
Mm.
mushrooms? Because then we can make more assumptions how conscious and how intelligent they can get, basically, or maybe are, and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, actually, I believe that single cell organisms scan their ability to calculate and compute by the input of environmental signals. Um, Actually, Andrew Adamatsky in the UK is working on fungal computer, developing fungal computer. And also one of my colleague is working on uh, making computer using single cell population of single cell organisms. That is very interesting, already published. And what he found was that he can use uh, demography of population change, I mean cell number change of that organism to predict future pattern of many things. For example, uh, fish population change. I mean, he input the past pattern of fish population change into the single cell organisms population by following the pattern by temperature change of the incubation chamber. And what he found was that the population demography can predict the future pattern of that fish population. That's amazing. And this is because I believe that simple single cell organisms can have their own ability for calculation and computation.
That is amazing. We should
Yeah,
use that. Maybe it can solve the climate change issues and
yeah, you're right.
how we can change behavior of humans.
Mm,
No, I mean, yeah, that would be interesting to use that computing power because it's so much cheaper than the silicon chips we use right now. They are very resource intensive and also they use a lot of energy. So if they
mm,
can make these computations very accurately, wouldn't, it would cut down a lot of CO2 consumption, I believe.
mm. But I think it's slow. Calculation is slow compared to electrical computer.
Can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
We all came from a single cell bacteria billions of years ago. Um, was bacteria smart enough to figure out how to survive and evolve? Absolutely. Do plants talk to each other? Yes, they do. Does fungus talk to each other? Yes, it does. I mean, we all came from some nutrients in a star, right? The iron in your blood came from some star billions of miles away. So, does everything communicate? Absolutely. And I think the research that Doctor's doing is amazing, and I'm fascinated by it. I'm in a different side of it because I'm more on the plant side, not the fungi side. But yeah, I believe everything talks. I believe everything communicates. And so I think where we are now with society and technology is just an incredible space because we're learning so much. And I think we're going to have so many breakthroughs in the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years that it's going to be just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they can survive in space. Understanding that they, the International Space Station environment is a little different than the vacuum of space or the surface of an asteroid. It might not be too different than the interior of an asteroid or some other, large mass like that. On the International Space Station, there's so much of it that it causes, issues with station operation. So they can definitely. I don't know if, like, well, we have to get the Mars sample returns first to be able to do that type of analysis. I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know if they can remotely see if mushrooms are in Martian soil. But there are there's like a dozen plus sample tubes that are ready to return.
No,
And
we're
I don't
just
know
talking
about the
about like
moon
single
either.
cell bacteria, organisms in general, which is where we came from.
Yeah, I have I'm sorry, did a question about so a lot of these organisms, what we're talking about maybe is them foraging for food or moving, in a positive direction. I'm curious about like bacteria have evolved myriad ways to defend themselves, biosurfactants, and all sorts, antibiotics and everything. I wonder, like, there's pythiums, phytophthora, fusariums, all these types of things, trichodermas that might attack uh, some mycelia. So I'm just curious if you any thoughts on how some of this might interplay with plant pathogens like that, or fungal pathogens.
Question for me.
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure I could understand all part of your question, but did you ask about difference of signal transfer across fungal species and ecotypes?
Well, I guess what I'm sort of getting at is that there's this intelligence that we're talking about and signal transferring,
Mm-hmm.
and in one of your papers you looked at food as a bait, a food bait,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wonder if there's similarly like the opposite force, if there's something that wants to eat the fungus or some kind of thing that's detrimental to its life. Does it sort of move in the opposite direction, away from some kind of fungal pathogen? Have you, I mean, that's sort of, I don't know if you've researched that, but just any thoughts on that?
Yeah, as you said, trichoderma is parasitizing some other fungi, very different ecology compared to our mushroom, which is ectomycorrhizal fungi. And also, as you said, my other research is working on wood decay fungi forming code network system. So every fungi have their own ecological character, and I I'm expecting that different fungal species and different fungi in different ecology have their own type of signal transfer and chemotaxis, for example. So yeah, so I'd like to compare signal transfer and ecology in many types of mushrooms and fungal species, not only ectomycorrhizal fungi and wood decay fungi, and also within wood decay fungi, there's many types. Not some species is forming massive network of code, but other species making not that big network, and, and living only in the wood particles, small part, small in small space. So probably their difference in ecology have their difference in signal transfer. So yeah, as a next step, we'd like to compare signal transfer and electrical activities across fungal species in different ecology. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Out here in California, there's Phytophthora, I think
Five
it's
star.
Phytophthora cinnamona, I think it is devastating. Sudden oak death, I think it is just devastating. So much trees out here, and there's a wide variety of these different. It's not exactly a fungus. It's sort of a pseudo fungus or whatever, but
Mm,
it's interesting how they, knowing more about it would really help because it's such a devastating disease.
yeah, I've heard that they invade trees by root, but are they making networks in soil?
I don't exactly know that. I mean, I think they form Pythium. I think forms small. They do form hyphae,
Mm,
but I don't know if they form large mycelial networks. But maybe they communicate with each other, and how did they sort of move around? Is it just sort of luck, or is there some kind of intelligence towards them finding the roots and moving around?
mm. They are also making motile spores, so their movement is also interesting.
Yes.
Eric, what was the thing you called? What is it? The question? The thingy called? The fungus?
Phytophthora. It's a sudden oak death.
I know, Eric. What's up, Eric?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you think that this electrical communication has also maybe some type of immune function in the organism itself, or also defense mechanism, like what your hypothesis is around that. If in fungi this function is kind of combined in these electrical signals, or do you think, or do you know that kind of defense mechanisms of fungi are a completely separate mechanism? Because they in animals, we now learn more and more that the immune system and the neural system are much more connected than we thought and influence each other function a lot. So would be interesting to find out about this in the fungi.
Yeah, fungi also have their kind of immune system prepare for more attack. And this is not the immune system, but some previous studies show that yeast cell can prepare for uh, utilization of new type of sugars based on their past experience. So I think that fungi can have that kind of preparation for uh, negative attack also. But I don't know about the research evidence.
I'm curious if you've been able to, for example, in the baiting study, uh, the electrical basis of that signal, is it manipulable in the sense that you can record a sequence and then, in essence, play it back in a novel situation and induce some of these behaviors, either increase mushroom mass by talking to it, in essence.
Yeah, that's also a very interesting point. And we expect that we can manipulate fungal behavior by uh, giving them uh, a pattern of electrical signals. If we found some certain electrical patterns after baiting, then we can use that pattern to manipulate fungal behavior for forwarding some direction. That is my hypothesis, but we have not yet have not yet uh, checked that ability in experiment. We are now planning that kind of experiment.
And that's interesting. So even in the Figure 2 study, like the first ones to speak, I mean, if if you were to take those recordings and play them back, in essence,
Yes,
and
yes.
and still provide water, but in a a delayed sequence, would you
Mhm.
get different timed responses, for example?
Mm.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to check in with you because we went over an hour. I guess you need to also go back to your work. So, do you have still a little bit of time, or do you need to go? It's totally fine. We are so happy you came here and took the time to talk about your work.
Yeah, thank you too for inviting me. That it was really fun time to talking with you this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, and no, it was so exciting because it's such a different way of intelligence and communications that we don't talk too much about. So yeah, we really appreciate the time you took to discuss your work with us. And the conference you mentioned sounds so interesting. I will try to join remotely.
Hmm.
Um, if you could send me the link, I can distribute it to the audience because a few people asked about it. And yeah, thank you so much. We wish you all the best for your future work. We will be following your work. And
You.
yeah, and maybe you'll come back one day, um, and share updates with us about your work, and we can discuss some more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
And thanks everyone for coming, asking questions, and contributing to the discussion. It was really a pleasure talking with everyone. And yeah, I hope to hear you all again soon. Um, we'll be talking with Dr. Alfred about gravitational lensing and how the Einstein rings are modulated by wave-like dark matter. Um, and then we'll have on June 8th talking about different oxygen abundances in different gases throughout the universe and how to measure those. So yeah, if you like discussions like this, come back and yeah, we'll talk about different scientific topics. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Fukasawa. It was such an honor, and I'll close the room in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You.